thinking and shifting more towards a long-term solution. As Arizona's grown, we've been able to get by with Band-Aids. Let's fix this here, works for a little bit longer, let's fix this here. How you harness that passion and guide that passion, direct that passion to long-term stuff is a science and an art. You find the right group of people who are saying, hey, I want to see this move, I want to see this do better. You can find those people and get going on it. And that's an opportunity in and of itself that you don't get in other places.
I think when you have a chance to build programs that are community-centric first, the team or the organization was very thoughtful building.
But if you get leaders understanding issues enough and they can see where they want to play and you get some of those wins, it just feeds on itself.
Well, welcome back to the Future Human Experience. I am so excited to not only have a friend here, but a wonderful leader that we've had in the community over the last few years. The CEO of Valley Leadership, Dave Brown. Welcome to the Future Human Experience.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me here.
So Dave, not only am I excited to have you here, but also what connected us to this work is that I had a chance to be part of the Valley Leadership Program. Of course, I could talk about this for hours about my personal experience, but wanted to share with the audience a little bit more about what Valley Leadership is and the impact that it's had so far in the community. Can you just give us like a brief overview of VL that we call with much love?
Yeah, and it's been much love for now 45 years. So Valley Leadership's been activating, educating leaders across the state for 45 years. A little bit of a switch up 7 years ago when I started. We heard from alumni that given our alumni base, and we have 3,000 alumni here in Arizona, we should be doing big things. And this is about the same time where we're seeing Arizona get big and the Phoenix region get big, and big problems, sophisticated solutions, all that sort of stuff was needed. So we said, yeah, let's figure out how we not just teach leaders what they need to know about a space, the Valley, Arizona. Let's have them understand that there's interconnectivity between those issues. So it's not just let's talk about education one month and then move on to health and then move on to the next topic. Let's show how all those things really are interconnected, and let's talk about what you're going to do about it. So thinking and shifting more towards a long-term solution. As Arizona's grown, we've been able to get by with Band-Aids. Let's fix this here, works for a little bit longer, let's fix this here. We're looking at pretty holistic, wholesale upgrades to how we do things here, given our population. And you've seen that in the last 3-4 years. As a native, someone who grew up here, housing was always cheap, and cheap compared to anywhere else in the country, really. Now it's one of the worst when it comes to affordability. Water continues to be challenging. We've gotten hotter. Growing up here, the nights, I swear, they did cool off a little bit. Now you have nights, especially in city centers and urban places, where it stays above 90 for most of the summer. And now we have to figure out how we address those things. How are we looking at trees and shade? How are we looking at air quality? All those things now require a bigger approach. And our leaders are the best way to do that. We have human capital looking to see how they can improve big things by doing it together. Yeah. We are a young state, so we don't have a group we can go to. We don't have an entity, an agency that can just solve these things. It's going to be people powered and people working together to get through it.
That's cool, Dave. And I remember when we first met, it was one of the recruiting events that Valley Leadership had, and one of our common friends, which is also a guest in the series, Karan Hardiman, had invited me to one of those recruiting events. And I remember him sharing with me, hey, you should join this program, this leadership program. I'm like, Karan, like there's hundreds of these. Like, I don't understand why is this different? He's like, Eric, just come, meet Dave, meet the team, hear us out. And I remember what got me into this program, which I was like, oh, this is it, was when you shared and the team shared. It's like, look, we're not here to just go and solve the next big problem. We're here to connect you with the work that's already happening in the organizations that's already doing this work. And we just want to inform you, connect you with the tools and the folks that are doing this work, and unlock the bullishness that everyone has. Unleash. There you go. Unleash is out there. And man, y'all absolutely accomplished that promise. And I'm so grateful that not only had a chance to connect with the VL program, I had a chance to then sign up and then be part of the Catalyze 3 program, which we all joke around is the best
Yeah.
the best class of VL. But not only that, but now how we have an opportunity to be part of impact makers, right? And I'm proudly wearing my shirt today, that we continue to do this work, right? So it's not just for us to go there, give us a few high fives for the year, be bullish about Arizona, understand the challenges that our state has, but more importantly, it's about activating us and putting us into these communities. With that said, Dave, what has that experience taught you? I mean, again, VL's been out there for 45 years. Been through a certain transition over the last 7 years. But what has that taught you about what the future of Arizona could be? Because you have an organizations like this, and you're unleashing all of us that are really excited about what the future could hold.
Well, one of the things I learned, so I'm new to leadership development. I'm not a VL alum, so I had not gone through the program. And what I learned very quickly is when you have motivated people, they want to do something. They want to do something quickly. And how you harness that passion and guide that passion, direct that passion to long-term stuff is a science and an art. So we hired some very smart women, and I purposely say that because our staff now is all female, but we hired a couple of women who understood what it takes to train the brain, the human brain, to say, one, I'm going to have patience and persistence when it comes to big issues. People leave VL and had left VL excited, then life happens. You move, you have kids, new job. How do you keep that passion alive and put it into a space where you can make some meaningful progress on big issues? Humans by nature, I think, especially now with phones, shorter attention spans, more instant gratification. The issues we're looking to solve won't be solved overnight. And so how do you keep a leader like you and others on the 100 plus that are on our impact teams year to year to year saying, hey, we haven't cured, opioid stigma yet. We haven't cured early literacy yet. That line is still flat. We haven't cured any of these things. Lots of people working on it. How do we get people to stay in that space where we can say, you're going to be here for a while, but we are going to incrementally make year over year progress to where we want to get as a state? You can then insert big policy change and get there quicker. And that's what we're starting to explore now with our impact maker system. But just having that human-centered passion focused on something where people can say, I understand where we want to get to. I can see it. It's going to take step by step. And, Bridget Jones, Pearl Chang Esau, the two women I refer to, really understood how to do programming. Catalyze was a deliverable of that. How you can get people trained to understand the issues and understand what it will take to reverse course on things, what it'll take to iterate and then improve, what it'll take to have some successes then fail to get these bigger problems solved. So we've been lucky with the talent we have in Arizona. We continue to get lucky when it comes to where we can place all those people and to figure out these big things. And we got lots of work to do. Yeah.
Well, what I find interesting about the work that y'all are doing too is it reminds me of like this saying that sometimes we talk about in innovation or in those innovation circles, which is like gradually, then suddenly, right? Like people think like, oh, all of a sudden we have this, or all of a sudden this happened, or all of a sudden the solution is here, or all of a sudden this problem is fixed, or hey, isn't it great that now AI is here and all of a sudden we have now these great solutions, but also these challenges. But when you start reflecting back and peeling it a little bit more, you start realizing like, no, like this gradually took time. Like this takes time, but sometimes it does feel all of a sudden, right? And I love that that's part of this work, right? It's like we're doing the gradually work, right? That's for the next generations when they come into these. Like, for example, just for me to say, all of a sudden we have a program like VL. It's like, no, Eric, it was been 43 years before you found it. It's like, people put in a lot of the work, right? Yep. And so I think that's the same effect that we're going to see, not only in Arizona, but I would venture, I guess, like VL will be used as a model for a lot of communities to follow and very soon.
Absolutely right. And I love that analogy of the click. It'll just click, and it will move from gradual click, and then there's some suddenness to it. Because I think people are starting to see older models haven't reached the outcomes that we've wanted. So it's not a, wholesale get rid of it and throw everything out in the kitchen sink with the baby at the bathwater, that whatever the saying goes, but it's thinking about where can you tweak And then you get people excited. People can see, well, we didn't do it that way, so it's new, and that makes it exciting. But then we're also starting to see some results quicker than maybe we thought we would. And so let's move on that. Again, it may plateau, it may be the wrong thing, but if you get leaders understanding issues enough and they can see where they want to play, and you get some of those wins, it just feeds on itself.
Yes.
Success begets success. Innovations will start turning on innovations. I'm sure know all of by this time next year, AI will be 100 times what it is today, and all those things I don't understand. Sure. But you see it in some of the leadership stuff we've built out where, it gets a little messy, it gets a little slow, but then things start to click.
Yeah.
And when they do, that's when it's awesome. And Arizona is due, just in our growth and our life cycle as a young state, we're due for a lot of clicks coming up here.
Got it. What I also found super fascinating about the program as I entered it, of course, the philosophy of Valley Leadership is to build the next generation of leaders. But what I thought was the secret sauce of that program was you tapped into building empathetic leaders. Mm-hmm. I, to this day, remember one of the homeworks that we had was to drive around the city in different zip codes, because we're trying to understand the social dynamics of some of these zip codes and how that led to different lifespans. And I remember it was on a weekend. I told my wife, I said, look, I have this homework. Why don't we take the family? Why don't we take our kids with us, and we'll drive around these different zip codes as part of the homework. And we got to observe. And y'all had already given us some questions too that we had to answer. So I shared those simple questions, right? I had to ask those questions to the kids too. I'm like, hey, kids, we're going to see their shaded area, their sidewalks, access to schools, access to groceries, simple things like that. In other areas that even my kids recognize that I didn't recognize, like their dad, where's this? Where's that? I was like, what? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have a chance to build programs that are community-centric first, the team or the organization was very thoughtful building, hey, if we want to build a community-centric, we need to truly build an empathetic approach to the community. And what I've realized over the last several years of doing work around innovation and technology deployment, the best technology deployment, the best innovation deployment always starts with an empathetic approach. And so that's why I have no doubt that the work that this organization is doing is not only transformational, but it's following a really good model that I think a lot of folks could learn from, which is innovation, true impact starts with empathy first. Was that intentional too, as you started building this out, on making sure that you are tapping into the empathetic part of what it is to be a serving leader today?
Absolutely. And so everything VL does is intentional. And that's something I learned very quickly, being surrounded by so many smart people, was if we're going to do this, what's the outcome we want as a result of doing that? And empathy was absolutely one of them. Dr. Nick Vasquez, who continues to do the social determinants of health setup as part of the beginning of the Catalyze program, talks a lot about empathy. He's an emergency room physician. He has to be empathetic, not only for his Hippocratic oath and bedside manner and all those things, but just understanding the human experience. Mm-hmm. And we want people to understand that the solutions to problems all center around a human. And if you can't connect with the human on any level, one, we're not your program, but two, you're really never going to get to the root of why is this problem here in the first place. And Dr. Vasquez does such a great job. John Ford, who used to be at Vitalis in that first session, because they throw that around, the empathy idea around in a way that shows right off the bat, there's not level playing fields for everybody. Mm-hmm. And, some of it is no fault of their own, some of it is, but just understanding that people are coming from different spaces and knowing that education and health and workforce development and substance use and early literacy, all these things come back to the person, and they're all starting at different points. And if you can't get that, you'll never understand how to solve for some of those issues. And so, yes, empathy is absolutely a big one. We hope our leaders leave. We actually score our leaders afterwards. You do that evaluation of how you've grown with our principles of doing our value system. And empathy is a big chunk of that. We love to see the change of here to here as a result of hearing the other side of human experiences. Quran's always been a great voice in my ear of just sitting down and listening to someone what is your story? Within 5 minutes, you start to see this is why they're saying some of this stuff. This is where they're coming from. That's huge.
And with that said too, Dave, I mean, y'all have also gone through a transformation on how y'all have been using technology to reach these leaders today and tap them into these programs and democratizing these experiences for folks. Can you share with us a little bit more about how Valley Leadership has been exploring the use of technology to connect leaders across Arizona?
Yeah, so we're right there across Arizona. So when we looked at our mission statement, we purposely took Phoenix or the Valley out of it and put Arizona in. And we did that, again, intentionally as always, because you can't look at, as a great example, water. Water, depending on where you're talking about water in the state, is very different from farming, which uses the most water, to urban, which uses the less, to, we're living in a desert and we have golf courses, all those kind of things that pop up. And so we said, we need leaders from all over the state. And you can go out to them and see them. And we do that actually with our Explore program, or you can bring them to us, and technology brings them to us. So we, even before COVID, before Zoom was really a thing, we started thinking about how do we do virtual sessions. Wow. COVID absolutely accelerated that with our Ready Together program, but it was then accessible to leaders outside Maricopa County. As soon as you get outside of Maricopa County, and it's a running joke among all sorts of leaders, is, the great state of Maricopa County thinks they know what's best for the rest of the state. That's not true. There's so much to learn from communities outside Maricopa County. There's so many leaders who are ready to do something for the entire state. How do we tap them? We make it accessible. We bring virtual into it. We bring accessibility to different learning platforms. We have a great platform called CoAssemble, where you did your homework, where you can do interactive stuff. That windshield survey you can do in different places. Yeah. You can do it in Flagstaff. You can do it in Southern Arizona. You can do it in Yuma, where you can, again, just visibly see and experience the zip code life expectancy gap based on those unlevel playing fields. So yeah, we'll continue to embrace technology because we want leadership accessible to anybody. And one of our big mantras is leadership is action, and action can happen anywhere in the state. And so if you're in, we're in.
That's awesome. Dave, thank you again for that insight. Like I said, I've been bullish about Arizona since I moved here 15 years ago, and I can't wait for what's possible. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all this amazing work. With that said, we also have something really fun that we like to do with our guests. I asked them to bring a surprise question. You're already laughing, so I can't wait for this one. But what question do you have for me today on our show?
Well, and again, it's because you have kids, and I have kids, and you moved here 15 years ago, about the same time we moved back and started having kids. What do you hope for Arizona for their future? Like, how do you want to see? What are one or two things you want to say? Hey, kids, you're going to have this in Arizona.
Yeah. So I think Arizona is going to be has the potential to be the most important region in the Western world in the 2030s. Just with all the investment that you've seen in this space, with the workforce development you have in this space, with the universities that you have in this space. Every time when I fly out of Phoenix, I always look around and turn back and be like, this is a miracle where we live. Like it's an oasis in the middle of nowhere. But it's all thanks to innovation. It's all thanks to like people breaking science basically every 5 to 10 years and figuring out how we're going to not only sustain life, but thrive in this space. I have no doubt in my mind that that's what the whole area of Arizona has the potential to be. And so what I envision for my children is for them to have all the possibilities of what that could be like in the Western world. I not only say that for tech reasons, but just even geographically, like where we like just there's so much opportunity here. And I think the key word has always been opportunity. That's what got me really pumped up about VL, which is, we could see all these possibilities, but there's still a lot of challenges, right? And we have to go and do this work. And so what I envision for my kids is that not all these challenges are going to be solved by the time they're of age, but that they could look back and be like, wow, I saw, Arizona grow into where it is today, but I'm also very excited to be engaged in what the solutions could be. And I also see that as someone that might decide not to live here in Arizona, as my kids might decide not to live here anymore, but they're proud to look back and say, we learned all that from here. How could that be used as a role model to grow in these other spaces? That is personally something that I've always taken with me in my life experiences is not that, for example, I love New Orleans. It's still one of my favorite cities to live in, but I learned a ton of living there, and I try to bring those lessons here. The same thing might happen if ever one day we decide to move to our next chapter of our lives.
Yeah.
But that's where I see. I think that the energy is here. I think the opportunities here, the possibilities are here. I think even the conversations that we're having here are very much more, they're not as polarized as sometimes maybe the news tells us that the world is. I think here in Arizona, we have much more discussions about difference of opinions that is very common, and that's okay. And we're gonna wake up the next morning and try our best. And that type of energy and vibe, that really does get me excited about this. And I want my kids to learn that too. And so that's what gets me excited for them.
That's awesome. And that's a great selling point for Valley Leadership. You sold Valley Leadership's philosophy very well. You know, you get different people in a room, different perspectives, viewpoints, generally thoughtful, and just thinking about what do they want to see for Arizona in the future. And you nailed it. So yeah, our program runs, our Catalyze program runs every spring. Our Explore program, that's when you go visit the state, runs every spring. Catalyze is every fall, mostly virtual. You do get to together in person a few times during the fall. And so glad that you're a part of our alumni network.
Thank you, Dave. With that said, what has you excited? Now that you've seen not only several of our classes go through there, I appreciate the kind feedback on my answer, but what has you excited for seeing all these leaders unleashed, like you say, into our communities? But what do you see? What has you excited about the future of VL and the future of Arizona as well?
I think you nailed it a little bit too. We're not New Orleans. We're certainly not any East Coast city that's been around. We have the opportunity as leaders to get involved and try to do those fixes and try to do those improvements. Cool. And that makes it exciting. You can be very hands-on. Leadership here can be very hands-on. You find the right group of people who are saying, hey, I want to see this move. I want to see this do better. You can find those people and get going on it. And that's an opportunity in and of itself that you don't get in other places, where there's institutionalized ways, families, names, corporations, all those sorts of things that kind of say, well, this is how we do it. We can write our own chapter when it comes to Arizona's future. I think we absolutely have a chapter to write. We're not done, and we have a lot of ways to go. But we have the right people, and again, I get excited every graduation from Catalyze, every graduation from Explore, because people are excited, they're motivated, they're passionate, and I think with Impact Maker and other ways, they have a vehicle to go do some awesome things, and they have an ecosystem that allows them to do that here in Arizona.
And so with that said, Dave, I know our audience members come from all over the walks of life. What I've taken away from our conversation is that innovation, service, how to improve our communities starts with just getting engaged in there. What VL is today for Arizona might look a little bit different in some other communities. But if they want to learn more about Valley Leadership, connect with you as well. Can you share with us a little bit more about how that could happen?
So again, valleyleadership.org, impactmakeraz.org. Again, our programs run in the fall and the spring. Happy to reach out and talk to anybody. I mean, this is the nice thing about Arizona. You can talk to anybody, get them excited, understand what they're excited about. Accessible and open to anyone. I mean, that's truly a shift where we went to kind of competitive way of selection to you still got to apply, you still got to have alignment to our values. But like you said, if you're willing to do something, and you have a lot of people who are willing to do something, we're the place to go get you activated, wherever you are in the state.
That's awesome. Dave Brown, thank you again so much for being part of the Future Human Experience, and thank you for unleashing the possibilities of this wonderful state and being a role model for all of us to follow across the country.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, this is Eric, the host of the Future Human Experience. The reason why this podcast was created was to be a platform for others to really bring these conversations to life. So if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. It will really help our channel and expose these ideas for others. Thank you.